Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court, just like I'm the king on the microphone. So it's Dr. J and Moses Malone. I like slam dunks, take me to the hoop. My favorite play is the alley-oop. I like the pick and roll, I like the give and go, 'cause it's basketball. Mr. Curtis Rowe.
Down the middle. Oh, and Ola Pass rises up. Here comes the hook. Yes, sir. Bill Russell comes up big again. Larry surveys the court. Makes his move to pull in for two. Dump it into West. He finds baseline.
I used to go to dinner to take girls. Tiny Fred against Earl Pearl and Will. Bio and Jerry West play basketball at its very best. Basketball has always been my thing. I like Magic Bird and Bernard King. And number 33, my man Kurt Reed is the center of my starting team. To the hoop. To the hoop.
History in the making, ain't you feeling it?
It's an Eastern Conference showdown as the Indiana Pacers come into town for this one. This is Kevin Harlan here to call the action. With me, Steve Kerr and Clark Kellogg. Let's check out Indiana's starting lineup. We've got Jermaine O'Neal. Steven Jackson is out there with Artest. Then it's Miller and Tinsley. And for the Pistons, we've got Tayshaun Prince. Chauncey Billups out there with Richard Hamilton. Then there's Wallace. And it's Wallace in at the 5, roaming the paint.
Well, you really have to say the Pacers took a step forward last season. I mean, they did improve their road record by 4 wins up to 13-28 compared to the season before.
And the Pacers start off with the ball. And here's Artest. And O'Neal backs in. On the money. O'Neal's got the first points up on the board here for the Pacers. Mark, you talk about 13-28 road record for the Pacers, tied for the 9th worst in the league. I hate to bring that up since you look at games. Steve, not what I would expect from a playoff team.
Well, they struggled on the road offensively, Kevin. They averaged about 7 more points at home than they did on the road. But I was impressed with what they did late in the season under Frank Vogel. And if they can carry some of that momentum into this year, I think the Pacers can be much improved.
Let's find out what Doris Burke has for us.
Kevin, thank you. I spoke with the Pistons head coach for just a bit. They'll be up against a very smart team on the offensive end, and he knows they'll have to be on top of their game to keep up with them on that end of the floor. Coach said that he emphasized communication on defense, as they'll need to be on the same page to get the stops necessary. Guys, let's see if they can do it.
Great stuff, Doris. Thanks. It sounds like, Clark, the most important number for them today is opposing shooting percentage.
Well, one of the best ways, Kevin, to contain a dangerous shooter is to keep the ball out of his hands. Deny him the ball, and deny has to be what your focus is.
Steve?
Well, if the key is, if you're going to deny, then you've got to anticipate the rotations. And so as long as they're schooled in the game plan tonight and they understand what they're trying to accomplish, they can be aggressive and deny and then go ahead and make the rotations from there.
And he lays it straight in. Wallace has got his first bucket in this one.
Well, I tell you what, the coaching performance of Rick Carlisle in the playoffs last season was, I think, what cemented him in the minds of many as an outstanding coach. We've always known it. He was terrific with Detroit. He was outstanding with the Pacers. And he's got a championship ring with the Dallas Mavericks.
Here's Billups. There's the pass to Hamilton. And it's Miller picking him up. Off the pick. The shot no good. And it's the Pacers taking it the other way.
Well, going back to Carlisle, I mean, he did such a great job, you're right, Clark, in the playoffs last year, mixing up the rotation and going deep into the well to get the right matchups through every step of the playoffs. I mean, I thought he did as good a job as possible for the Mavericks in that playoff run. That's one of the reasons they won the title.
And the Pistons decide to take their first timeout right here.
Well, it was a terrible season for Detroit a season ago. The lone bright spot was they actually fared pretty well at home, finishing 21-20 in Detroit.
The Pistons making a switch here. McDyess is checked in. Here's Billups. Jackson against Prince. 6 to shoot. Here's Hamilton. The finger roll finish at the bucket. Hamilton's got his second bucket of the game to go. Well, for the Pistons, as you said, Steve, even just finishing with those 21 wins, you know, Clark is something to build upon.
Yeah, it is something to build upon. And when you've got a team that's in transition, that's in limbo phase right now, you got to try to hang your hat on some of those positive things, and the better than 500 record at home is certainly one of those. And you always start when you're building a team, and the culture and identity is let's take care of the home court.
Pushing it up. Here's Prince. Well-timed pass, and he goes straight to the bucket for the layup.
Tight spot there to put it in. Perfect pass.
Here's Tinsley, who's guarded by Billups. O'Neal against Wallace. No stopping him there. Jams it in as he's fouled. Chance now for a three-point play. It's going to be on Antonio McDyess. Wallace is checked in for Detroit. The free throw off from O'Neal.
Well, Jermaine O'Neal only played in 26 regular season games for the Celtics last year, and it makes you wonder, how much does he have left, because he certainly has had some knee trouble recently.
Wallace. Prince is whistled for the loose ball foul. That's his first foul of the game, and the bonus will go to the free throw line.
Well, he was boxed out, nowhere to go, so poor choice in going over the back.
You said it exactly. He didn't have good position. Give up on the play, try to get the next one.
No good on the free throw. He doesn't get the second one. The Pistons lead it. Now Billups. And it's Miller picking him up. Hamilton dishes to Wallace. The kick out to Billups. Wallace with the screen on Miller. Out to Wallace. Over Jackson. Wallace. Good. Clark, you mentioned J.O. He can still contribute, but he has to remain healthy, which, Steve, has been a problem for him.
Boy, 15 years in the league, and it's taken its toll on Jermaine O'Neal, but we did see him after missing most of the regular season for Boston last year. We saw him be a major force in that New York series in the first round for the Celtics.
Miller covered by Hamilton. Indiana needs to get a shot off. And once again off the mark by Indiana.
And again, iffy shot selection there. Defender draped all over him.
Well, you got to understand who's guarding you in that situation. I mean, if he's on you tight, you can't just rise up and try to shoot over the top.
He dishes it to O'Neal. There's the block. And the whistle blows. He decides to foul intentionally for some reason. Odd.
I'm not sure why you would foul right there, Kevin. That's obviously not the smart thing to do, so a mistake there.
The scoring fast and furious as we end the first quarter. Pistons ahead. Now the second quarter getting ready to start up. Here's Billups. 6-point game.
Well, one of the reasons the Pacers were able to move forward in that Central Division is that teams like Milwaukee, Detroit, and Cleveland really struggled last season.
Tayshaun Prince out there with Wallace. Then there's Wallace. Then there's Chauncey Billups. And it's Hamilton in at the two-guard spot. That's the group for Detroit right now. Okay, well, let's check in with Doris Burke reporting from our sideline in this game. Doris, take it away.
Hi, guys. Well, J.R. Smith, a free agent going into this season and now on a new team. His former coaches in Denver had their critiques of his mental approach, but Smith still got onto the floor with his athleticism and offensive gifts. Smith now in a new environment. We'll see how he does.
Plenty of talent, that's for sure. Thank you, Doris.
And Smith, going into his 8th season now, but still a really young guy, only 26 years old. He's got a lot of basketball left.
4 on the clock. Here's Prince. Another 3 for Detroit. Stevie mentioned the Pacers in the Central Division. Chicago, really the one dominant team from that division. And the Bulls knocked them off in 5 in the first round. But the Pacers were scrappy against them.
They really were. I was extremely pleased and proud of how the Pacers competed. Didn't know exactly what to expect, having been through somewhat of a disjointed season. But the team came on really strong, showed a lot of life in that series. And they have young talent, maybe not the caliber of MVP Derrick Rose, but they've got players that are going to be good for a long time.
Well, that should be a rule. No layups. Protect the paint, make them earn every point.
Yeah, I think that's just tough, hard-nosed, smash mouth basketball. Make your opponent earn their points from the line. Don't give up any layups.
Last year was a struggle for this Detroit franchise. A lot of inner turmoil in the locker room. No real leadership amongst the players. And it was reflected in that record.
Here's Miller. He lays it in. Miller's got 6.
Well, they've got to do something defensively because he's been unstoppable.
And defensively, Steve, your only choice now is to double him. I mean, I don't think there's another option.
Well, Steve, we're just talking about that, what you said about the Pistons. It got really close to something bigger at times, it seemed, when you read all those things, Clark, coming out of their locker room.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion and dysfunction, it appeared. And the fine line is so thin between success and not having success. When you've got those other issues going on, it can really sabotage any efforts to move forward in a positive way.
Pistons leading by 9. Kicks it to Hamilton. O'Neal against Prince. O'Neal comes with the double team. Here's Wallace. Sweet little floater. Wallace has got 7 points.
You know, if their plan was to keep going inside a ton, it sure has paid off. I mean, it seems like every bucket they get is in the lane.
Well, no reason to take an outside shot if you're scoring at will from inside the paint.
And he commits the intentional foul.
I have no idea why he was fouling there.
And even the foul, I mean, you can't be wrapping guys up like that. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. That's a meaningless play.
Lets it go with a 3. The shot is off.
That's how you have to play him. That's paying attention to the scouting report. Get up in him and bother his shot.
Yep, get in his airspace. Don't give him any room to get that shot off. Great defensive effort.
So the Pacers call timeout, their first of the game.
Well, Chauncey Billups, a very productive season a year ago. He's not the player he once was. He's still a guy who will step out, take a big shot, run his team well, and show great leadership.
Here's Tinsley, looking for his first bucket of the game. You're right, Steve. You know, Billups did show leadership, and he did deal with some injury issues last season, too. Some torn ligaments in his wrist, Clark, an injured knee in the playoffs. The injuries did slow him down.
Yeah, and a lot of people would make the automatic jump that because he was injured and he's getting older, that those two things are connected, and going forward, you got to worry about it. Sure, you got to consider his age, but he's a great shooter. He's a terrific leader. He's a championship caliber player. And if he's healthy, he's still got some really good basketball left in him, because, again, he's one of those guys whose game isn't predicated on overwhelming athleticism. It's about smarts, toughness, skill, and if your body's good, you can play that game a long time.
Tinsley covering. Hamilton against Artest. Here's Wallace, and easy 2 points on the layup. Wallace has got 5 points now this quarter.
Yeah, no mistakes on the offensive execution there.
That's just a sloppy pass, a lack of focus there.
And the officials called the foul, reaching out and committing the intentional foul here, and his teammates are baffled.
Yeah, everybody's kind of looking at him like, what are you doing? I mean, I think he just lost track of the situation.
There you go, fans. You're on a motion. Thanks to the noise, Detroit.
Here's Wallace, 11-point game. Fires for 3, and Jermaine O'Neal pulls it down. Pacers trail by 11. Here's Tinsley, tipped. Left side, Billups. The monster one-hand slam.
That's how it works. Your defense feeds into the offense.
Yeah, you know, excellent work, I thought. Solid work on both ends in that particular sequence. know, guys, he's always looking for that open three. I mean, that's his strength, and sometimes the best time to get the three is in transition.
Backing down is Wallace. Out of bounds, and they'll keep possession.
And it took a gamble there to try to disrupt that pass.
Yeah, he couldn't quite get a hold of it, but still a nice play.
Here's Billups. He has 7. The Pacers able to recover. And they're pushing it up. Here's Miller. Rebound by Wallace. Wallace has got 4 rebounds in this game. Jacks up a 3. And yes, a nice assist from Billups. Wallace has got 8 points in the quarter. Pass to Miller. Lets the 3 fly. Hamilton with some nice D.
Not the best shot. Long range and with a defender right in his space.
And defensively.
Thank you so much for spending your Wednesday with...
Well, we're getting back to the action now. It's been a one-team show so far. We'll see if that changes here in the third. Tinsley is whistled for reaching in. That's his first foul. Here's Billups.
Well, you remember these two teams years ago had a pretty healthy rivalry, Detroit and Indiana. And last season it was pretty even. They split 4 games.
Here's who Rick Carlisle is starting the second half with.